Welcome back to the Standish Wood Story. Today we are building a simple but functional birdhouse using just one fence board and very few tools. And best of all, absolutely no sanding required. So go grab your tools and let's start this wood story. So as you can see here, this is a full cedar board. You can use a fence board, pressure treated wood is fine as well. I'm choosing to use cedar because that's what I have left. And you will also need just like a little latch like this. You can get these on Amazon. I will list below where I got my package. The very first cut you want to make is the side piece, and you're going to measure 11.2. I'm just going to use the shape because I already had it made. But essentially, this right here, this point, this is 11.2 and this is 9. And you're going to start by making this cut because that way you can use the next piece for the next one that we also need because we need 2. My saw is set to 22.5. And then before you go ahead and make the next cut, make sure that you turn your saw back again to 0. Because now we get a nice straight edge. And then you can use this as your template for the next one. That way you don't even have to measure. And then just make sure that they're the same size. Next, I am cutting the back piece, which is 14 inches long, and again, same width, which is just over 5 because it's a fence board. Then we have the front, which is 9 inches. And we have the roof, which is 8 inches. And we have the bottom piece, which is 4 inches. And that's it for our cuts. So this particular birdhouse is going to be for swallow birds. And I looked it up, and what they recommend is that you make the opening 6 inches from the bottom of the front. And that would be the center of the opening. And that the opening is 1.5 inches wide. Now, I'm going to go over and cut this using my drill press, using a Forstner bit. But if you don't have a drill press, it's not an issue. You can just use a regular drill with a bit, or you can cut it out using a jigsaw. Just make sure that it's as smooth as possible, because the last thing you want to do is have the bird get stuck on the way in. And you do want to get it that size because that's what they're looking for if you are tailoring yours for swallow birds as well. Okay, it's time to start the assembly. So I've laid out my pieces. Make sure that you have 2 clamps ready as well. That's going to make the assembly go a lot easier. And then you have your bottom board right here, which you're also going to use just to keep everything going. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking our front and I'm putting it facing outwards. So this is the inside of the box. And then I'm going to take my piece right here, which is the bottom, and I'm going to center that. And then I'm going to take the side pieces like this and like this with the angle going down like that. And my clamp is going to be put like this in order to support the pieces as we assemble it. And I'm going to start by assembling this. This is just on here right now in order to make sure that I'm all aligned. But we'll do this part first. So let's start by adding some glue. And a few things to note. I am using outdoor glue. I'm also going to be using my nailing gun. If you don't have one, again, totally fine. You can use regular nails that you can just hammer in, or you don't need to use it at all. You can just use any outdoor glue that will be plenty strong to hold this forever. So you don't actually have to use that. The only reason that I like to use my nail gun is because it's going to help speed up the process. That is it. That is the only reason. Okay, so now that I have it somewhat in place, that is when I want to use that clamp here in order to get it properly in place. Just so that it's all nice and tidy. And obviously do a dry fitting first just to make sure that you got the measurements correct so that you're not in the middle of a glue up and then you realize that you cut something incorrectly. I'm just going to add a little bit more glue here. And squeeze that together. And I'm just going to use one more clamp over here because I see that it's trying to escape its border here. Sometimes the wood can be a little bit warped and it needs to be just encouraged to get back into place. Okay, so now that that's here, now again, if you're only using glue, then I would also add some clamps in this direction right now. But I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to using my nail gun, and that's gonna secure everything, which is essentially a clamp as well. That side's attached. Okay, so now we have the front attached, the sides attached, and the bottom attached. And I do have a little bit of glue squeeze out. So if you want to remove as much of that right now, just to get it a little bit cleaner, do that now before you add the last piece. Next, we're going to attach this to the back piece. And if you want, you can even pre-drill this. This will just make it easier later on when you actually have to attach the hardware to it. So depending on where you're attaching it, if you're adding it to a tree or to a pole, this is the piece that you want to use to actually attach it with. It's just going to make it a lot easier. So what we're doing is we're adding this right here like that from the front to the back. And then we also have our roof, which is going to go like this. So I like to just loosely add the roof and then just center it with that in mind. And then all I do is I just take a pencil and make a quick mark so I know where it's going to be. And that gives me enough space on both sides to attach it using a screw or a nail instead of having to go into the birdhouse to attach it through that. And we're going to attach that the same way using glue and nails. And now we have the back piece on. Next, we're going to attach the roof, and we're going to use a hinge hardware in order to attach it. That way, when you need to, you can open it up and you can remove old bedding and stuff like that and empty out the birdhouse. If you don't have that, then you'll never be able to get into it again. Now, one thing I want to draw your attention to. Once we get this hinge on, you will see that there are some light gaps along the side here. And you may be tempted to make an adjustment and actually angle this piece before assembly. But I urge you not to, because birds need airflow. And it is really important that there is still air in here, even to the extent where you might want to drill a hole, maybe towards the end here, just to give it a little bit more airflow. You don't want to make it a hot and humid area for them where mold will develop. So make sure that there is air in here, and that's what this essentially ensures. So there is a reason for it. It's not a mistake. So let's attach the hardware. Ideally, you're going to be using hardware that lasts for outside. To be honest, I'm not sure if this is the right hardware for that. It's just what I had, so I'm just going to use it. It might not last forever. As well, I am using 1/2 inch screws, and ideally these would be flatheads, but they're not. They do have a little bit of a bevel on them, so they will stick out a little bit more than what I would have liked, but again, I'm using what I have. So I'm just going to get one in place here, and then I'm going to line it up on the other side here. And I want to make sure that it can close, because you can see here, if I do it really tight right now, it will have a huge gap. So I'm going to push it in just a little bit until it's mostly flat. Again, remember, it's okay if it's not fully flat against here. Like, you don't necessarily want to have it up like that, but it can have a little bit of space because that's just going to add to that airflow that we're looking for. So that's okay. It is not a mistake. So with the hardware attached, the roof is now ready for use, which will allow you a nice peek inside from time to time, but it will also allow you the opportunity to clear out any bedding once the box has been used and the birds have left. You might be tempted to sand it. Please don't. they do recommend that the wood is as natural as possible for the bird. By not sanding it, you also allow the bird a better grip so that it can actually grasp the wood. So don't be tempted to sand it. Now, it is possible that you could paint the outside. I don't know if the bird loves it or not. Maybe that's a personal preference for the bird. So perhaps you can go ahead and decorate it and make it your own. Personally, I love using the cedar wood. I think this looks beautiful in itself compared to the pressure treated, which is a little bit darker. This will become silver gray over time. No finish is required because cedar is a great wood to be using outside, and it will cost you exactly what a cedar picket cost in your area. For me, that is $8. So this $8 birdhouse is now ready to be put up and hopefully have a new tenant soon. I'd love to hear in the comments below, what kind of birds do you have in your area that you're going to be customizing your birdhouse for? That's it for me this time. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more great content. And I'll see you soon in the next Wood Story.